Hello again team, it's Jess or JashiiCorrin and welcome back for another video. Today I'm setting up my journal for August 2021, but before we get into that, as per usual, we're just going to have a look at how this month was going. My theme for July was books, and I've honestly super enjoyed using this theme. The kind of dual tone, darker colour palette has been fun to use, and it was cool getting to make use of the blue paper from the Artranola subscription box. I am totally in love with the gold editions, both from my Clearo watercolours and from the metallic acrylographs. If you hadn't already seen the monthly and weekly setup videos that I had for July, both of those are linked in the description box below. My main reason for picking a books theme in July was because I wanted something easy to draw. At the time I was setting that one up, I'd also been spending a lot of time setting up my start of journal pages, and also the layouts for the giveaway bullet journal. I figured the books would be a nice simple theme, just given that if you're drawing them closed, they're really just rounded rectangles. Although I ended up with a books theme for July, actually picking a theme was really challenging. So to help me out, I took to our Facebook community group to source some inspiration. One of the suggestions I received, and the one that I've decided to go with for August, came from Butterfly Ness, who suggested an Olaf or Frozen theme. Just following the idea that where I am, it's winter, but where most of my viewer base is from, it's summer. Thus we have the theme Olaf Summer Holiday. Sadly, by the time that August rolls around, I won't actually be on holidays anymore, but I thought that this suggestion for a theme was absolutely perfect. When it comes to drawing cartoon characters in my journal, especially ones that aren't just a creation of my imagination, or intended on being stylized in some way, it's important to me that whatever I draw actually ends up looking like a true representation of the character. I want Olaf in my journal, not Olaf's still lovable but somewhat deformed cousin. For that reason, I opted in to trace all of the Olafs that I had in these pages. Rather than trying to trace from stills of the movie itself, I figured it would be much easier if I could find line work drawings. And the simplest way to find these, especially as it's a kids movie we're dealing with, was to do a Google search of Olaf colouring pages. Using images like these ones made the tracing process way easier. But something that's not so easy to do is tracing on pages that are 160 GSM. To transfer these images into my journal, I used that tracing trick that I've mentioned before, so cutting out the image, flipping it over and colouring all over the back of the picture with a pencil, then washi taping the picture into place on my page and drawing over the line work of the picture to transfer the pencil from the other side onto the page. This leaves me an exact copy of the picture in my journal. I super love this trick, and in theory you can do the same thing with carbon paper or transfer paper, but I personally haven't used those before. In terms of timing, from first touch of the pen to final erasings, the quote page took me about 25 minutes, but as always this doesn't include the idea generation time or the tracing time. You can see that the quote that I went for on this one is "Winter's a good time to stay in and cuddle, but put me in summer and I'll be a happy snowman." This of course comes from the song that Olaf sings in the first movie about being in summer and enjoying all of the things that summer has to offer. Although I do myself prefer colder weather, we have had some quite chilly days recently, so a little bit of warmth wouldn't be too bad. I'm not only the kind of person who gets overheated quite easily, but I also prefer to wear things like jumpers and long pants, that kind of stuff, so staying in cuddle weather isn't really something I'm against. You can see that for the cover page I've been putting in here though, when it comes to drawing things in my journal, I very much take the approach of constantly flipping my journal around so that I can more easily control my line work. I find drawing lines vertically, particularly those that come towards me, way easier to do. So for any line work that's a bit more horizontal, I'll turn my book so I have better control when putting those lines in. For each of the main headings on the pages of this setup, I went with a font that was very much akin to the style used in the Frozen movies. This one is called Ice Kingdom, and it's linked in the description box below. I thought it was just a nice way to bring more elements of the theme into the spreads, but it did also add a bit to the time taken for the layouts. So for the cover page, this one came in at about 35 minutes. After colouring in the picture for the cover page, I wasn't too sure if I wanted to also add colour to the heading. Before committing to the pen, I decided to take a photocopy of the page, so I could add colour to that one, see if I liked it, and then put it into my journal. I'm really glad I did it this way because I did end up deciding against putting any colour in. But after this, the cover page was finished and it was on to the monthly log. Like I mentioned in the plan with me for the giveaway bullet journal, August is super fun this year in that because it starts on a Sunday, if you're using a Monday start calendar, it's going to span 6 weeks. Typically what I'd do would just be to put the days from the 6th week on the top row of the calendar, but for some reason I decided that I wanted this calendar to be across 6 rows. That meant that the space I had for decoration became a little bit more awkward. What I did to get around this was draw another picture of Olaf at the beach, this time being carried to the water by snow geese. When I decided on the Olaf summer holiday theme, I knew I wanted to have the snow geese. I think they're super cute and they're actually pretty easy to draw. That didn't mean it took me any less time, but they are technically easy to draw. They're essentially just 4 rough ball shapes stuck together. Of course, I wasn't taking my chances with making sure I got the dimensions right though, so this one is another traced image. The palm tree, on the other hand, I copied off a reference image that I found on Google. Though I certainly reiterated to myself the lesson of make sure that you pencil everything in first, because I wasn't actually intending on the palm tree coming in front of the calendar originally. Thankfully I caught this before it became too much of a problem. I didn't want to take up too much space in the affected boxes. In terms of timing though, the monthly log came in at the longest amount of time, so about 45 minutes. But of course this time doesn't include sketching in, idea generation, etc. As a side question, just because I'm curious to know, what is your favourite Disney film? Off the top of my head it would probably be Beauty and the Beast, but I also really love Tangled and I really love Big Hero 6. I think Big Hero 6 is underappreciated. Let me know what yours is in the comments, I'm curious to see what people say. For all of the colour that I added in this setup, I used my Tombow gel brush markers, and you'll have seen that for any of the circular shapes, I used my Staedtler circle stencil. Those and any of the other equipment I used in this setup is linked in the description box as usual. After adding in the beach ball and the sun though, the monthly log was finished and it was over the page and onto the mood and habits trackers. The mood tracker is probably my favourite layout of this entire setup because yay, more snow geese! I just think they're so cute. For this one, I started with a picture that had Olaf with about 6 snow geese, and then I increased this to have 31, so 1 snow geese for each day of the month. For each of these snow geese though, I drew them without a mouth. The mouth is what I'm going to add in each day to indicate what my mood is, so a smiley face for a good mood, and a not so smiley face for a not so good mood. This one took about 40 minutes to set up, and I'm honestly surprised it didn't take longer than the monthly log. Maybe it was because there's less to colour in on this page. Mood tracker done though, and it's on to the habit tracker. For my tracker in August, I decided to go with the hollow mini calendar style. So this one involves just drawing an outline of the mini calendar, rather than putting in the numbers for each day of the month or a little grid style calendar. This one's a little bit more minimal, so it doesn't take as long to set up, and I can fill this one in with my completed habits just by putting a little dot or a tick in the space within that outline that corresponds to the day of the month. You can see that I made a mistake here when I was putting in the colour for the headers of the habits, but this was easily fixed by just cutting out a little piece of spare paper, putting the yellow stripe on it, and then sticking this over the top. So the habit tracker would have come in at 18 minutes, but it did take a few minutes extra to fix that stuff up. Over the page though, and we are on to my social media scheduler and my time log. For my social media scheduler, as I've done a couple of times now, I wanted to include a little bit of decoration on this one, so I took it as an opportunity to draw another happy snowman. The format of this one is staying pretty similar to what I had last month, so a space for my main channel, a space for my vlog channel, a space for Instagram, a little smaller than last time, and a space for Patreon. Now as we're getting past all of the typical YouTube content that I'd have around mid-year, so things like setting up my new journal, doing my flip through, that kind of stuff, I'm actually starting to get a little bit stuck on ideas for videos. So if there's anything that you guys would like to see from me, I would love to hear about it. Please do make sure to leave any suggestions that you have in the comments. Up next we have my time log, which I've actually been finding quite helpful in the months that I've used it recently. One of my goals, and I swear it's been my goal for so many years now, is better work-life balance. And I find that having a time log holds me a little bit more accountable to making sure I actually finish work before 5 o'clock. Otherwise, I can very easily spend my entire evening working. As can probably be expected, this layout was the fastest to set up, coming in at 9 minutes. Again, with that time being increased because of the more decorative heading. It was really enjoyable getting to include my little Olafs and the frozen elements into these spreads. And as can be expected, question of the day for you guys: what is your monthly theme for the month coming? Are you going with a more seasonal theme similar to what I've done here, or are you doing something completely different? Let us know in the comments below. For a flip through of the spreads we've set up here though, we have my quote and cover page featuring Olaf enjoying his summer holiday, the calendar style monthly log with Olaf and the Snowgies having some fun at the beach, my mood tracker featuring the Snowgies again and the mini calendar style habit tracker, my social media scheduler, and the time log. I'm pretty dang pleased with how the pages of this setup turned out, and I hope you guys liked it too. As always team, thank you for watching. If you liked today's video, please do make sure to give it a big thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more on planning, productivity, and personal development. Until next time, bye!